Reviewing every episode from Columbo's first season. Columbo reviews in a minute. Episode 1, Prescription Murder. Based on a stage play by authors Richard Levinson and William Link, Prescription Murder acted as the pilot film for Columbo. The story is quintessential. Psychiatrist Ray Fleming, played by Gene Barry, murders his wealthy wife so he can take up with one of his patients, played quite effectively by Catherine Justice. Enter Lieutenant Columbo, cigar, trench coat and all. With almost no supporting cast, the verbal and intellectual duel between Fleming and Columbo takes up the vast majority of the film's runtime, and does so brilliantly. In fact, the chemistry between Peter Falk and Gene Barry is strong enough that I wish Barry had been brought back as a killer later in the series. In any event, their one pairing is a gem, building to an atypically dramatic conclusion. The film features most of the trappings that made Columbo a classic show, though the lieutenant himself is somewhat more clean-cut, and less impish and slovenly than he'd later become. A true classic, I give the episode 4 out of 5 stars. Columbo review in a minute. Episode 2. Ransom for a Dead Man was Columbo's second pilot movie, and led directly into the original run of the TV show. The plot follows ruthless criminal defense attorney Leslie Williams, who kills her husband, whom she married for his wealth and position. Now that she's achieved success in her own right, she wants him out of the way. Contriving to make the murder look like a kidnapping, she pays the ransom to herself and uses the FBI and police for an alibi. Her husband's body is found and she appears suitably grief-stricken, but Columbo sees through her act, and the game begins. Complicating matters for Leslie is the arrival of her much-hated stepdaughter Margaret, who's convinced of Leslie's guilt. The plot becomes somewhat uneven in the last act due to Margaret's histrionics, but it does build to a satisfying denouement at LAX. There is one delightful scene of note when Leslie, a recreational pilot, takes Columbo up in her small plane, which triggers his fear of heights and motion sickness, to comic effect. I'd give this one 3.5 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute. Episode 3. Murder by the Book was the first regular episode of Columbo as part of the NBC mystery movie, and it's a delightful classic. Jack Cassidy, the ultimate Columbo killer, plays a cad you'll love to hate, as an ersatz mystery author who kills his writing partner, played by Martin Milner, who wants to break up the team. Columbo sees through Cassidy's smarm from the beginning, and the intellectual cat and mouse between them is superb. Rose Mary Forsyth adds excellent support as Milner's grieving widow, and Barbara Colby adds some entertaining sleaze as a would-be blackmailer, who becomes Cassidy's second victim. The "gotcha" moment at the end isn't one of the best in the series, but it's more than good enough. The episode is notable as the first to feature a second murder, as well as for the fact that it was written by Steven Bochco and directed by Steven Spielberg. All that talent definitely shows. 5 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute. Episode 4. Death Lends a Hand. Death Lends a Hand is the second episode of Columbo's first season. Robert Culp, in his first of 3 appearances as a Columbo killer, plays Brimmer, an ex-cop who now owns a large and rather sinister private detective agency. In a fit of rage, Brimmer kills the wife of one of his clients when she won't submit to blackmail. Then he convinces the client, played by Ray Milland, to hire him to find the killer. He tries to steer the investigation away from himself, but LAPD has Columbo on the case, and Brimmer hasn't bargained for that. This episode has it all. The story is compelling at every level and the chemistry between Culp and Falk is pitch perfect. Milland, who plays a killer in Columbo's second season, gives a fine performance as the grieving husband who'll do whatever it takes to catch his wife's killer. The trick Columbo must contrive in order to force Brimmer to expose himself makes for a compelling conclusion. It's also one of the few episodes where the murder was not premeditated. 5 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute. Episode 5. Dead Weight. The third episode of the first season, Dead Weight, is the first bad episode in the series. Eddie Albert plays Martin Hollister, a retired Marine Major General and highly decorated war hero who's also an accomplished embezzler. To keep his crimes secret, Hollister kills his accomplice, but what he doesn't know is there's a witness, played by Suzanne Plachette. Sounds like it should be easy for Columbo to catch him, right? Wrong. Hollister manages to gaslight the witness into doubting what she knows she saw. The episode is watchable, that's all the good I can say for it. Albert plays a rather uninteresting killer and the byplay between his character and Columbo isn't very compelling. The real problem, though, is Plachette. Known for playing strong, assertive women, the intense doubt and timidity she displays here don't feel authentic. The ending isn't terrible, but not sufficiently satisfying to save the episode. 2 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute, episode 6. Suitable for framing. Suitable for framing, the 4th episode of season 1, finds Ross Martin playing Dale Kingston, an insufferably arrogant art critic who kills his art collector uncle. Then he kills his accomplice in the first murder and tries to frame his uncle's ex-wife, portrayed by Oscar winner Kim Hunter, because it's she who'll actually inherit the priceless art collection. Columbo is at his unassuming best, continuously asking Kingston simpering questions about art and intentionally driving him crazy in the process. For his part, Martin brilliantly portrays Kingston's anger as it slowly rises to a boiling point. The quality of a Columbo killer frequently hinges on how much fun it is to hate them, and nobody's more pleasantly despisable as Ross Martin. The episode ends with one of the series' most effective, gotcha, moments. 4.5 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute's episode 7. Lady in Waiting. Lady in Waiting was the 5th episode of Columbo's first season. Susan Clark stars as a woman who hatches an intricate plot to shoot her controlling brother and make it look like an accident. Her scheme doesn't go quite as planned, but she gets the job done and appears to pull it off, until Columbo finds a newspaper where it shouldn't be. This isn't a bad episode. The interactions between Falk and Clark aren't classic, but they're adequate, and solid support is given by Leslie Nielsen as Clark's boyfriend who unknowingly becomes a witness to the truth. What holds the episode back is an unevenness in Clark's story arc. Initially she's a somewhat sympathetic character as a woman dominated to the point of abuse by her powerful brother. Following the murder she begins to take on her brother's arrogant and controlling habits. The distinct and sudden change denies the episode a consistent tone. All in all, it's enjoyable, but hardly among the best. 3 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute episode 8, Short Fuse. Short Fuse is the 6th episode of the first season. Roddy McDowall plays a chemist who's up to his neck in scandal, and being blackmailed by his uncle who controls the family business. McDowall blows up the uncle, played by character actor James Gregory, using a box of cigars rigged as an explosive. The plot is considerably more complicated than that, but that's about all you need to know. This episode should be good. The plot is fine, the setting is good, and the supporting cast, headed by William Wyndham, Ida Lupino and Anne Francis, is solid. The problem is that McDowall's performance is so over the top and off-putting it's impossible to enjoy the slow burn as Columbo weaves the web to catch him. The ending scene is certainly exciting enough, but again, McDowall is so nerve-wracking that all the viewer wants is for it to finally be over. I do advise watching this episode, but just once. 1.5 stars. Columbo reviews in a minute episode 9, Blueprint for Murder. Blueprint for Murder was the 7th and final episode of Columbo's first season. Egomaniacal architect Elliot Markham kills millionaire Bo Williamson and hides the body, knowing that Williamson's young wife will continue to bankroll the architect's self-indulgent dream of designing and building a utopian city. Enter Lieutenant Columbo, called into the case by Williamson's former wife who's sure the rich Texan is dead. This episode is a gem. Veteran character actor Forrest Tucker is great in his few scenes as the millionaire, and Patrick O'Neill is perfectly punchable as the narcissistic Markham who never stops to think that a man like Columbo just might be his intellectual equal. The cat-and-mouse game between them is ideally played, and there's plenty of humor as Columbo impatiently tries to navigate the world of engineering and architecture. There's an edge-of-your-seat scene involving a blown tire and a body in a trunk, and the gotcha moment at the very end hits perfectly. Written again by Stephen Bochco and marking Peter Falk's debut as a director, I give this episode 4.5 stars. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, comment, give it a thumbs up and consider clicking the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.